What is up, YouTube? JankyYGO here. My name is Michael, and in this video, we are going to be talking about Ishizu support and also a new Hydralander card. But we'll talk about the Ishizu cards first because people like the anime more and because I'm more interested in it, kind of, to be honest, myself. So, we got Keldo, the Possessed Statue. It's a level 4 Earth Fairy effect with 1200 attack, 1600 defense. Its first and second effects are hard once per turn, and you can discard one other Earth Fairy to special summon this card from your hand. Then you can add one Exchange of Spirit or card that mentions it from your deck to your hand. Its second effect is a quick effect that says you can banish this card from your graveyard or field or graveyard, then target up to 5 cards in any graveyard, shuffle them into the deck. If Exchange of Spirit is not in your on your field or in your graveyard, you can target up to 3 cards. Only 3 cards instead. So Exchange of Spirits, if you don't know, is a trap card that you pay, I believe, 1,000 life points. I might be wrong about that. And then if both players have 15 cards in their graveyard, you swap their deck in the graveyard, or 15 or more, I should say. It used to be just only if you did it, and there was this really janky deck out thing where they get exactly 1 turn to beat you. But yeah, that's what Exchange of Spirit does. And it seems like her whole deck is around that. So, with that in mind, I believe the second effect is so that when you activate Exchange of Spirit, you can chain this effect and then banish 5 cards from their graveyard and get, deck them out. I believe that's what this is for. I could be wrong. You let me know in the comment section down below. And if that's the case, it's a pretty interesting concept, although you're probably going to get OTK'd before you get to that point. Like, they're going to get 15 cards in their graveyard if they're, a combo deck. That's not the issue. The issue is that, like, you're probably going to get OTK'd on this turn anyway. But we're going to move on to the next card, Mudora, Celestius Oracle. It's a level 4 Earth Fairy effect with 1500 attack, 1800 defense. Its first and second effect are hard once return. Discard one other Earth Fairy monster, special summon this card from your hand. Then you can place one Gravekeeper's Trap from your deck into face up spell or trap. And its quick effect says you can banish this card from your field or graveyard. Target up to 5 cards in any graveyard and shuffle them into the deck. If exchange, you can only do 3. So that's, and this is, oh, you shuffle them into the deck. Okay, you don't banish that. Never mind. So I misread this part. But so the second effect is very, very similar. I just need to see what Gravekeeper's Trap does, because I'm not familiar with that card. Let's look it up real fast. Okay. Gravekeeper's Trap. It might be a new card. As well. Because the only thing I found on it looks like it's from like a different thing. So I'll just, hold off judgment and read it from here if it's here. But the second effect, once again, you shuffle in the cards, I guess. It's not that great. It just depends on... Okay, but I did know that this is a continuous trap card that it gets placed face up, obviously. Interesting. It does summon itself, so that's good. Same thing with this. They're like, they do activate because of this colon. So keep that in mind. Your opponent, if you're going second, can just negate these summons. So yeah, we're gonna move to Agido, the Ancient Sentry. I used to have the other one. They're the original version of this card. I think I used to have the original version of this card as well, and this one. But they're based on older cards. But it's a level 4 Earth Fairy effect, 1500 attack, 1800 defense, decent stats. All these cards have had okay stats, except for this one. This one has pretty meh stats, but oh well. If this card is sent from first to second effect, are hard once per turn. If a card is sent from the hand and or deck to the opponent's graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand, then special summon one level 4 Earth Fairy, except for itself from your graveyard. If this card is sent from your hand or deck to the graveyard, you can send the top 5 cards of each deck to the graveyard. Then if Exchange of Spirit is graveyard, you can send the top 5 of either deck to the graveyard. So this is kind of like a help a mill strategy and stuff like that. What's funny about this card is that you could play this in like a Lightsworn and like a more janky version of Lightsworn, because Lightsworn doesn't need this card, but you can play this in a more janky version of Lightsworn, mill even more cards, and that's kind of funny. But yeah, it's definitely for this deck. So it's for like if you normal summon this card, for example, and then summon this by discarding Keldo, the possessed statue, you get the Keldo back. That's kind of the idea of that. And then if this card is sent from the hand or deck, so if you discard this card or mill it, you get to mill another 5. So that's pretty cool. Overall, though, it's like an extender, and makes it so that, or not an extender, it's kind of your starter. You summon this, and then the others are kind of extenders. This card's okay. It's not as gimmicky as the other two, and it makes it so it doesn't like stand out as much. But it does, reborn this, and it doesn't target. So that's it is a reborn that doesn't target, and that is something very good and all that, and something to consider if you play this deck. Gravekeeper's Trap card. Okay, so this is the card that I was wondering, what it did. It's a continuous trap card. Its second and third effects are hard once per turn each, while Exchange of Spirit is in your graveyard. Your opponent cannot activate card effects in the graveyard or special summon monsters from the grave. That's a very powerful effect. During the main phase, you can discard one card, add one Gravekeeper's monster or Earth Fairy monster from your deck to your hand. During the opponent's draw phase, before they draw, you can declare one card name, reveal the card your opponent draws for the normal. If it's a declared card, you send it to the graveyard. So this is kind of like a Necro Valley, or it's very reminiscent of Necro Valley, but it requires you to have Exchange of Spirit in your graveyard. And that makes this card a little bit worse. As opposed to the second effect, adding any Gravekeeper's monster is nice, but Gravekeepers don't really need this because they have all the consistency that they really want. I guess you could take out generic draw spells for this if you really, really want to. If you're going to play this, it's definitely more for this Earth Fairy deck and less for the Gravekeepers themselves. For the third effect, that's very lucky, and you're probably not going to get that off as many times as you would need it to be good. Like you would have to be able to consistently get it almost every game to get that third effect, to make that third effect relevant. But yeah, and then yes, I was right. This is okay. So Exchange of the Heart is the next card. It's not Exchange of Spirit, but it's a reference. But the art is a reference to Exchange of Spirit, and there's Obelisk, which is a reference to the anime. So, Exchange of the Heart is the TCG name, and it's a normal trap card. You can only activate one card with this card's name per turn. If you control 3 or more Earth Fairies, send as many monsters on the field as possible to the graveyard. Then each player special summons from their opponent's graveyard up to the number of monsters that were sent from the opponent's graveyard by this effect. Then if Exchange of Spirit is in your graveyard, you can set one trap directly from your deck. It can be activated this turn. This is very, very strange. This part right here makes this hard to get off the freaking ground. The fact that you have to control 3 Earth Fairies to even activate it. And then you do all this as one effect, pretty much. It all happens like after the other. There is no colon, there's no cost other than the activation timing. So to their field. So it says right here, each player can special summon monsters from their opponent's graveyard to their field. So, does that mean that I'm summoning it to my opponent's field, or I'm summoning it to their monsters to my field? Because if I'm summoning their monsters to my field, that might be very strong, like a very good, like, haha, I gotcha. But if not, then it's like, it doesn't do anything, really, other than set a trap. A very convoluted way to set a trap if you have exchange of spirit. But I'm pretty sure with the way it's read, you get your opponent's monsters and stuff like that. Overall, this card is probably too hard to like consistently get it off and everything. Because we don't really have a whole Earth Fairy deck. We have like a few Earth Fairy cards that are okay support, but we don't have like a full Earth Fairy deck. And I think that we would need like one that's really good at summoning a bunch of Earth Fairies and like good Earth Fairy extra deck monsters to really take advantage of this card. So that's my opinion. And we're gonna move to Blast Held by Fate instead of Blast Held by Tribute, which is once again reference to the anime where Ishizu put in Obelisk like a thing so that if he attacks, he gets destroyed, and then Kaiba takes 4,000 life points. But let's see what this card does, and if it does something similar. First and second effect of this card are hard once per turn. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy one face-up monster they control with the highest attack your choice, if tied, and if you do inflict damage equal to the destroyed monster's original attack, then if Exchange of Spirit is not in your graveyard, you take damage equal to the damage your opponent took. If this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you can target one Earth Fairy monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Okay. So this is like Blast Held by Tribute, or how it worked in the anime. But because we have Exchange of Spirit in the graveyard in this case, and we're gonna, that's kind of the whole gimmick of the deck. You need, it's a non-targeting Ring of Destruction that requires a attack declaration. And that can be very potent in like certain scenarios, and in like, especially like in a sealed environment. For those of you that don't know what sealed is, it means like you open up packs and you play basically what you open and stuff like that. But as far as this card goes from the meta perspective, I don't see it seeing any play really. We're kind of past these needs for battle traps and stuff like that. But this is, in my opinion, a better card than Magic Cylinder is in a lot of cases. Because for those of you who like Magic Cylinder and stuff like that, and still play like low-powered Yu-Gi-Oh, you might still take the damage, but your opponent takes the damage as well, and it gets rid of their monster. And if they're attacking one of your monsters, you can you can end up like saving your monster as well. So that's just something to consider. We're gonna move on to this is just the Exchange of Spirit reprint. Yeah, so this is what this card is. Overall for Ishizu's support and deck, here's my thoughts on it. I think that you need more ways to send Exchange of Spirit from your deck to the graveyard, and not just having to activate it and stuff like that, and relying on activating it. We also need ways to search Exchange of Spirit if the deck does want to activate it. So yeah, that's where we're at with this deck, in my honest opinion. And then last but not least, let's go Hydralander Orbit. It is a level 1 Dark Machine with 0 attack, 1500 to effect. That's what it looks like. Its first and second effect are hard once per turn each. If you have 4 or more monsters in your graveyard and no monsters with the same name, tribute this card, excavate the top card equal to the number of monsters in your graveyard. And if you excavate 2 or more monsters and no monsters with the same name, you can add one of them to your hand and place the rest to the bottom in any order. You banish this card from your graveyard, target one monster in your graveyard, and place it on the bottom of the deck. So this card is very, very bad. It's not like Hydralander, the other Hydralander, where if you have like snow, it just destroys cards and stuff like that. It's not as good as like, you know, this effect isn't as good as the other Hydralander, the one that destroys cards, non-targeting, the one that summons itself for free and is really, really big. But that is going to do it for my analysis on these cards. You can tell me what you think of the Ishizu support, if you are excited for it or not, in the comment section down below. If it is your birthday today, happy birthday, and if you want to send me any cool deck profiles or replays, you can send them to my business email, JankyYGO@gmail.com, and of course, and as always, have a wonderful day.